What's going on, my amphibians? Welcome back to another weekly edition of Frog Watch. It's the show where every single week, all of our viewers send us pictures of alleged sightings of the Loveland frog, and it's up to us to figure out, is it real or is it just another one of those dang frogs? How you doing tonight, fellas?
I'm doing great. I'm just excited to learn more about this frog, honestly.
Yeah, well, we got a great episode lined up for you guys. A lot of great submissions this week. You know, it's really impressive what people come up with. I think rather than wait on this lily pad any longer than's necessary, we just dip our feet right into the
Let's dive into it.
Right up first, we got this submission from Timothy Sheldon from Chicago, Illinois. Now, this one, a great picture, first of all. This is a great frog. He's bulbous. It's got to be said. Pretty large, good figure, a thick frog.
Thick, yes.
One of the
Very
thickest,
thick.
one of the thickest I've ever seen. He looks very aggressive. However, he does seem to be resting on all fours. I don't know if you noticed this about the frog.
Yes, all fours, no wand.
Now, is this typical of the Loveland frog?
Well, here's the issue. You know, I'm not. Yes, the Loveland frog would be on 2 feet. This appears to be a four-fer. Appears to be on four figures. Can't really see in the back because he's got such a large rear. But I got to assume he's on all fours. And like my friend Connor here said, no wizard hat. No wizard hat, not even a wand to be spoken of.
So I'm going to have to label this fake.
Yeah,
this photo's for sure doctored. I just can't trust this as evidence.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was not Loveland frog.
Not Loveland frog.
Not. Next up, we've got. Oh, thanks for joining again, Matt Thomas. Thank you so much for another great contribution to your weekly Frog Watch show. Thank you. Next up, we got this one from Kendall Swenson's from Hoboken. We got this one here. Now, I'm just not sure what to think about this.
It's more eel-like.
Yeah, I think this is this even a frog at all?
It could be the Loveland frog in a transitional stage. I'm not going to discount this as evidence yet.
That's a great point, Davis. We always talk about the Loveland frog. We never talk about Loveland tadpoles, of which this could be one.
It's an under-discussed issue in general.
Now, it does have these protruding gills that I find quite fascinating. But it is, once again, on all fours. No wizard hat, no wand.
Those front two legs are not touching the ground, so we cannot label this as on all fours.
That's a great point. It is kind of mid-action, mid-air floating. This could even be some sort of levitation spell. And maybe, like tadpoles, it just hasn't developed a hat or wand yet. We don't know where those come from. It's hard to say.
I would say this is the closest we've ever gotten to actual proof.
Could be the Loveland frog.
I'm tempted to say that I'm convinced, honestly.
Davis says is the Loveland frog. Fascinating. That's the closest to a confirmation we've ever received on the show. Jessica, my favorite amphibian, thank you for watching Frog Watch once again. Always bringing love in the chat. We love you for all of your support here on Frog Watch. We got one more before we head to our break. This one comes from Chris Anthony Schmopez from Loveland, Ohio. This one, let's take.
Oh,
wait a minute.
That is damning evidence.
Jesus Christ.
He's on two legs.
Two
no
legs.
Possibility of Photoshop. None. I've seen doctored photos before. This is not one.
And there's a scale up in the right-hand corner. We can tell this is about half the size of a average human. So it's a pretty large frog.
Yeah, comes up to your hips. Now, I've stood next to a couple frogs in my life. never came up to the hips.
No.
Once again, gotta say, no hat, no wand. However, he's ducking over this guardrail, and he could have thrown his stuff over the rail.
Yeah.
Before traveling over it himself. Looks a little suspicious, a little guilty, a little embarrassed.
If I were the Loveland Frog, I would destroy any evidence I had on my person if someone were taking my photo. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Really makes you think. And I'm going to say this is a 10 out of 10 case study right here. This could be that damn frog.
Honestly, and typical frogs usually aren't higher than my shins. So you were right about the thigh thing. I don't see it.
Yeah. We're going to have to take this for a closer look when we get back from our break here. Real quick, that's going to come up right after a message from these glorious sponsors. Stay tuned for more Frog Watch. Happy April Fools, my ghouls and goblins. Welcome back to another edition of your weekly horror movie podcast, Really Scared. As always, I am your guide on this journey. My name is Taylor, but never alone, joined by the top goblin himself, Connor Breedlove. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very good. Very good.
Very good. Great to see you on a very chilly, very cold, very brisk night here.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. Went from 70 to snowing.
Very upsetting. I was really enjoying the nice arrival of spring, opening the windows.
Yeah.
And yet here I am freezing my little tootsies off once again, no longer wanting to leave the house. We're back. It's all cyclical, never ending, but that's fine because I always have the one guarantee in my week, and that is really scared. The opportunity to talk about spooky movies with you. Thank you, everybody, tuning in live here, hanging out in the chat. Great to see you. See Shugs in the chat tonight. That's he danced gloriously on Spin from the Reel this past week. Great moves. Keep it up. My favorite ghoul in the chat. Always love seeing you there. Thank you for the support. Love you, Matt Thomas. Look at that. That's the kind of support you always hope to see in the chat when you're doing a show. Vomiting emojis. Great stuff. We've got a great show for you tonight. If this is your first time tuning in here on Really Scared. Every single week, we are joined by a special guest to talk about one horror film of their choosing. Maybe it's their favorite horror movie, their first horror movie. Come at it from any angle they want, and we're going to talk about it right here tonight. Of course, before we bring our special guest in for the evening, be sure, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, the follow button, the like button, whatever the button says on the platform you're watching this on. Hit it up. And Connor, what else could they do at home to help out Really Scared?
If you're listening to us after the fact, on your commute to wherever, if you like the episode, just leave a little cutie. Nothing too crazy. You don't have to go in depth about the Loveland Frog. You can just leave a little cutie, saying that you've seen that damn frog, and we'll put it on the show.
Leave a cute little review on Apple, on Spotify. I don't know if you can do it on SoundCloud. Leave like a comment. There's always comments on like a SoundCloud track that are like hot track. They're always like, so if you want to tell us we got a hot track on our hands, let us know. iHeartRadio, whichever. We're on every platform for podcasting at this point. So go ahead, rate us, review, helps us out wherever you might listen or watch. And thank you for doing so. We got a great show tonight. We're joined by, I think we might as well bring him in here, right?
Yeah.
Ghouls and Goblins, put your hands together. Welcome our special guest for the evening, the man himself, Davis Harmon. Woo!
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you tonight, sir?
Thank you for coming on.
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm thriving. You know what? It's a great April 1st. I'm combating a visceral headache, and I know exactly how to do that. It's to talk about a little film called Tourist Trap.
Absolutely. The only movie ever made. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on tonight, man. This is gonna be a fun one. I understand. Obviously, for those who don't know, you do a lot of TikToks based on films in the horror genre, right?
Yes. I'm the #1 TikTok teen, the most subscribed to account on TikTok. Don't look that up, but yeah, I talk about B movies, camp movies a lot, and that's what Tourist Trap is, the campiest movie. Love it.
Yeah, I think I saw a video of yours about like the House series.
Yes,
and I was like,
that's like what got me started. Is the House series. I'm kind of pissed that I didn't do that now. I should have gone with House.
That's when I was like, I gotta get this guy on, because
would it have been weird if we had started with House 2, the second story?
I don't think it would have been at all.
You don't need context.
No,
I think it's fine.
That's the thing with this show, man. We always want to put the guest in the driver's seat and just go on whatever journey they chart for us. And by that same token, I would love to hear why, when prompted with the question of, or the command of pick a horror movie, of all movies, what made you land on Tourist Trap?
A couple reasons. #1, I couldn't find Dream Warriors on streaming. If it were up to me, every online discussion would center around Dream Warriors. And second reason is I just really like, I don't like using the word underrated because it's so overdone, but not a lot of people talk about Tourist Trap, you know? It's not really culturally relevant, and I think it should be, because in my heart it's perfect. I love it. I think it's so weird. I think it's one of those movies that gets better every time you watch it, just because there's like a little more charm to it every time. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's like kind of funny to stretch a discussion about it for a full podcast. April 1st.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of one of the perks of this show, is I think a lot of times we do get to sit down and really sort of in-depth discuss these movies that otherwise maybe don't get that kind of attention.
Yeah.
We get turned on to things that we might not have watched otherwise, which, this is my first time seeing Tourist Trap. I think, Connor, same experience for you too.
Yeah.
I don't even know, had I really heard of it. I pulled the trailer up and I was like, none of this is familiar to me. So that's always exciting as somebody who is a horror movie fan, to sit down and just go on that ride and have no idea where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
If you've seen the show, we're huge fans of Shudder. I always saw this like in the Shudder like recommended. I always pass it up because I would see like PG and I was like, oh, I don't want to watch a PG slasher.
Yeah. That's the thing about that. From what I understand, it wasn't like a hit when it came out or anything. Mm-hmm. But because it was rated PG, it was played on television constantly in the 80s. Yeah. So whenever I've talked about it on TikTok, it's always like people in their 40s. They're just like, yes, I remember. I was there.
All those 40-year-old TikTok users.
Yeah, and then they argue with the teens that follow me. It's great.
So how did you find yourself watching this movie for the first time? Like, was it something, or did you see it on TV? Was it something you just came across on streaming, or have you known about this for a while?
So the first time I heard of it, it was in one of Stephen King's nonfiction books. I think it was, I don't remember if it was On Writing or not, but he just mentioned that and it like kind of stuck in my head. So then one day I was on Shudder like a couple years ago and I was like, hey, I've heard of you. And so I checked it out and I just thought it was the oddest shit, It's like mannequins, telekinesis. Why am I watching this? And I've seen it like 5 times since then.
Yeah, you can definitely see how Stephen King would be fascinated by this, because he himself loves the device of like telekinetic protagonist, villain. I mean, this comes out a couple of years after Brian De Palma's Carrie. Obviously, there's some parallels to draw with that. There's a lot of parallels you can draw with this in general with other. I didn't even think of that. You've got it posted up right behind you.
It's Carrie and it's Texas Chainsaw, if we're just calling a spade, but I love it.
A little bit of House of Wax.
Yeah, that's another reason I wanted to talk about this, is because I feel like people don't mention the fact that the 2005 House of Wax is a remake of this movie and not a remake of House of Wax.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is insane to me. Like, because I've only seen that one in like the Vincent Price version. Mm-hmm. Couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
This movie has the same plot as the 2005 one.
Yeah.
Great point.
after that
uncredited,
opening scene, I was like, "Oh, this is the House of Wax remake from 2005 with Paris Hilton."
down to the brothers and everything.
Yeah.
Like it's the same damn thing, but I love it.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely inspired by its peers of the 70s and
For sure.
trying to find its spot there in sort of the same league. I mean, Halloween comes out, what, I think like 1 year prior.
Yeah.
So between that and Chainsaw Massacre, the slasher subgenre is only starting to really formulate for the first time. And Black Christmas a few years prior too. So like it really explodes in the 80s, obviously, and this was one that I think they maybe hoped would be a part of that trajectory, and doesn't really
logical next step.
yeah, it doesn't really have the same legacy or appeal that those other two do, which, launched these massive franchises and remakes, and people are talking about those movies all the time, where Tourist Trap is kind of a one and done, never had that resurgence. But maybe it will now through streaming. It's been on Shudder. I think there was like a Last Drive-In episode on it, so it gets some.
We're single-handedly bringing it back right now.
Oh yes,
we're forcing it through this podcast, and I think that's beautiful.
We're starting the movement, and Blumhouse will probably be fast tracking a Tourist Trap remake into production within the next 2 years anyway. So
the full cast of Pretty Little Liars stars in the next Blumhouse feature, Tourist Trap.
Did you guys see, side note, that El Chupacabra trailer they posted today for April Fools from Blumhouse?
Yes, and I'm very upset that it's not real.
I'm just finding out that it's not real.
You gotta watch all the way till the end. It becomes April
didn't
Fools.
Watch till the end. You're breaking my heart, like live.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's better to know now than in like a year's time when you're waiting for El Chupacabra to come out.
Yeah, I was just gonna be counting down the days. You saved me from that.
I actually was pretty excited. Like, I have had a couple of those today where I get excited about something and then midway through remember what day it is. And that one I was excited because I was like, Connor and I were just talking about this a few weeks ago when we did an episode about the Mothman prophecies, where we're like, wow, I'm surprised these kinds of creatures and stories don't get more horror movies these days. And I was like, yes, here it is. Nope, Jason Plum fucking with me again. You got it.
Closest we're getting in the Shape of Water.
Yeah.
I think the reaction to that trailer will kind of force them to make it.
I hope so.
It could be one of those things. Wasn't Eli Roth gonna supposedly make an actual Thanksgiving movie, or based off like the Planet trailer or Planet Terror trailer he made for it? The people were like, "Wait, that actually looks sweet." I don't think it ever happened though, but it's allegedly something he's going to make at some point. I don't know if that's
because that's what Machete was
right
based off of one of those trailers, and they were gonna do like a movie off of all of them, but they never did.
Yeah. Right. Wait, didn't Machete star as like a character? Am I just like misremembering things?
As a what?
As a Spy Kids character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. That is the uncle in Spy Kids, and then they made it into like an action trailer in front of the Grindhouse movies.
Oh yeah. The double feature. Yeah, I lost track of what we were talking about.
I recently learned
that's one of my many great features.
I recently learned, to my dismay, that Machete and Spy Kids are not in the same universe. They take place in the same multiverse.
Oh.
different timelines.
Which means that we have the opportunity to see the Cortez family and Machete in Doctor Strange 2. So options are open.
You could see 2 machetes, from my understanding. You could see infinite machetes. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Machete's a flat circle or something like that. I don't know.
You're gonna make me cry.
Tourist Trap. Tourist
Trap. About that.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a 70s sort of proto slasher. It has the PG rating because the PG-13 rating just quite frankly doesn't exist. I don't think yet. I think it has a couple
after Poltergeist.
Yeah, it has a couple of years before that. I think like Indiana Jones was like the final tipping. Like one of the Indiana Jones movies was the tipping point where they were like, all right, too many babies are watching these movies that are too intense. Parents are getting upset. I think Gremlins had a lot to do with it too. I think we talked about that in our Gremlins episode. It was one of those ones where people were like, I don't know, this is getting pretty intense for the babies. But didn't stop babies from seeing this. Apparently, everybody got to go to the cinema with your whole family to watch a nice PG film, right there with your favorite Disney cartoons, and sit down and watch Tourist Trap. This is pretty damn gruesome for a PG movie, for sure.
Yeah, like not necessarily like blood and guts, but the subject matter is pretty bad. Just like imagine going to see that as a kid, you know?
Yeah, the main antagonist looks very, very terrifying. I mean, basically does look like Leatherface through most of the film. I mean,
yes. Like, again, just keep referring back to this. Like, it's going to come up a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's another thing I thought of is that, like, he really did feel like a character that Stephen King forgot to write. Like the childlike qualities and everything, and just coupled with the fact that he lives in an isolated area and has telekinesis, it's like I'd read that book.
Yeah, it is very King-esque. I'd also learned, I guess it's not the biggest coincidence in the world that he looks like Leatherface, and that this does feel sort of Chainsaw Massacre-esque. Yeah. I guess they had the same production designer who did a lot of the art design. Robert A. Burns was his name, but he did Chainsaw Massacre. He did the original Hills Have Eyes. So it makes a lot of sense, kind of maybe going back to his notes and finding some rejected Leatherface design that he gets to use on this.
And they called the villain Plasterface on set. Plasterface. His name's Davey in the movie, but they referred to him strictly as Plasterface in like behind the scenes. So
it's so subtle. Can you tell where they got the inspiration from?
Yeah.
Also, same composer as Carrie. So really just wrapping everything back around to those two movies.
Right.
But it's also like its own thing. Like it's odd because I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's like I didn't feel like it was the first time I watched it, you know? Like the first time I watched it, I was like, what is this mysterious thing? It wasn't until I went back to it and thought, and I was like, huh. That movie a few times, you know?
Yeah.
Right. No, it definitely is its own thing. It's got this weird sort of specific tone to it. And I think it is to its advantage that it comes out kind of before a lot of the hallmarks of what this is trying to be, you know, being this slasher movie. A lot of the tropes and things don't quite exist yet because it gets to exist in this weird medium where it's trying new things and maybe not all of them work, but at least it's doing something very distinct, and it does have all these different elements to it. It's like spooky mannequins and then a plot twist, and there's like a weird redneck yokel guy in it, and the telekinesis. It's like it's got all. It's just throwing some stuff at the wall and seeing.
Absolutely. And a lot of times it's like hard to tell what tone they're going for. Exactly, even like after multiple rewatches, I'm like, how intentional was the camp here? You know?
Yeah.
You got this guy in a 10-gallon cowboy hat.
Yeah.
He's brilliant.
The fashion in this movie in general, 10 out of 10. Love it.
I do want to talk about that 10-gallon cowboy hat because I was very envious.
Yeah.
So I have a very standard cowboy hat, and
I'm stunned that you didn't put it on for this.
I should. I'll go get it. I'll be honest.
I'm kind of offended, honestly. I would feel more comfortable if you were wearing it.
I'll get it. I do want to say that I was very jealous of that hat because it's iconic. And
absolutely.
Honestly, I think every movie would benefit if our villain had a 10-gallon cowboy hat before he was revealed as the villain. It's
like Jason Voorhees, boring derivative. Jason Voorhees in a 10-gallon hat.
Exactly.
I'm leaving. I'm getting out of there.
Terrifying.
Yeah. You don't know what he's keeping in there.
Exactly.
Could be anything.
You could have 10 more machetes in that 10-gallon cowboy hat.
I like how we haven't even begun to describe what the movie's about.
No, and I guess if we should, because it is feasible that somebody watching or listening has not seen Tourist Trap.
Maybe. Small chance.
I'm going to get that cowboy hat. I'll be right.
Yeah, why don't you go on and get your piece there, son. Tourist Trap is, and it's just hanging out on Tubi for free, so if you haven't seen it, you can watch it very easily there with a couple ads. And also on Shudder, which I imagine anybody who listens to this regularly could probably most likely have a Shudder subscription.
Love Shudder.
It's up there too. I think there's even I think I mentioned earlier, but there's like a Last Drive-In episode for it even too if you like watching that.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, there's a Joe Bob Briggs commentary and stuff on it. So it's by all means, feel free to hop in here if I'm not doing it justice, but kind of a standard slasher setup of quite literally some debaucherous teenagers, young adults. Car breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and they want to get gas, but there's no one at the gas station.
It's really the blueprint.
Yeah, come across a good old boy named Mr. Slauson, who's just kind of a backwoods yokel. He owns a I don't know if it even is a wax museum, but it is like a museum.
They use the word plaster a few times, so I'm gonna say not wax.
Yeah,
which is like the only link in the chain missing between this and House of Wax 2005.
Yeah. But it's got dummies dressed up like historical figures and cowboys, but it's dilapidated. No one's gone there. No one comes around here anymore because they built the old highway, which just sounds like it. It just sounds like such
Psycho. I didn't even think about Psycho.
Yeah, that's true too. Which is like the ultimate proto slasher, right? It's got that Psycho influence too. So the plan is they're gonna hang out while he helps fix up the car. And in doing so, they begin to explore their surroundings and find that things aren't as they seem and are perhaps a little more sinister. And Mr. Slauson might have a secret. But before we get to Mr. Slauson and all that, it does kind of oh Jesus Christ! There,
Sir Elton John, I love your work.
Thank you.
Last week's glasses made a comeback. I see.
Yeah,
I'm so happy. This is now the perfect podcast.
There it is.
We got a frog on here.
That so, damn. That's just.
All right. Continue. Ignore the hat. Continue.
So yeah, we're just starting to hop into the plot here for the first time. Our opening scene, which doesn't waste any time. This is a great opening scene in which I think his name's Woody.
Yep.
Yeah. He's kind of
you open on Woody's bulge and go from there.
Yep, we just fade up on Woody's bulge as he's walking down the street.
I would love to see the first page of the screenplay.
Exterior day, Woody's bulge.
Extreme close-up, Woody's bulge.
It sets the tone for the whole movie.
Yeah, a little bit. It's got it's a very sensual film. But he gets kind of ahead of his friends there, and he comes across, we'd mentioned this plaster. No, he comes across like what looks to be a gas station. That's it. And he's asking, is anybody there? Can anybody help me out? It looks like nobody's been there in 20 years. And he's the first to be assaulted by like one aspect of what makes this a horror film are these like these mannequin dolls. There's a couple different threats you have to contend with in the world of Tourist Trap, and one is mannequin dolls. How did you guys feel seeing these things for the first time? How do you feel about the mannequins in general in this from like a horror film perspective?
Well, I'll say in the opening scene, that was the scariest mannequin in the movie. First of all, they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit, where it's like, let's reveal the creepy one right away. But I don't know. I liked it. I feel like if they had been more animated, it kind of would have worked less, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if they had been constantly like moving and stuff, like I feel like it would have been a little too much of a spectacle almost. So I think like the low budget, the low-ish production quality kind of works in its favor a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I do love that opening scene. I thought that. So were we to believe that was our villain, or was that just another mannequin that comes in?
That's the thing. I've watched this movie probably 6 times now, and I still could not tell you how much agency these mannequins have. I have no idea how aware they are. I'm going to guess not much. I would say it was Slauson, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Because that was the scariest, I think the creepiest mannequin or
Yeah.
version of a mannequin to come in.
Maybe her specifically. Maybe she knew what was going on. She's like the highest ranking mannequin.
Yeah.
Yeah, one pops out with this very scary looking face. But it's just a great way to pique my interest because I was already like, what on earth is going to happen to this? Like, because there's this weird thing of like trying to figure out, like you were saying, you know, are the mannequins alive? Are they magic? That it doesn't seem like they're just, you know, machines or what? Like what is going on? Because they're very imposing and they seem sort of lifelike. They seem like they're able to kind of get around and chase people. But then you have the quality of when Woody's trying to escape, these things flying out of the cabinet and going up. So I was already like, wait, what actually is this movie about? Because I'd seen the trailer, scary mannequins, weirdo in a mask. I was like, I get it. I can follow this. So right away, they do a great job of piquing your interest. And I guess that scene too, they like did such a classic movie magic move to achieve it with the cabinet where they like bolted a cabinet to the ceiling of the set and then just, you know, turned it 90 degrees and threw things out of the cabinet at him. So it just looks like they're coming off the wall. Just a great little cheap movie making trick to achieve.
Yeah,
it.
I love that. It's like the Nightmare on Elm Street 1 trick. Like it's just great. Like honestly, made me less impressed with Nightmare on Elm Street. Tourist Trap got there first.
and a pretty gruesome death. I mean, again, this is a PG movie, but he gets a freaking Jessica in chat. I love a good bulge. Don't we all? That's why we're so excited to talk about this movie.
That's the only reason I picked this movie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we all got to say bulge at least 10 times. And then we can call it a day, I guess.
Yeah.
But the threat is very unclear. Honestly, even after it's over, it's kind of unclear because it's like, how much of that was him? How much was the mannequins? Was any of it the mannequins? Like, do they have any of their own agency? And I guess, like, if we can get into spoilers,
absolutely,
we kind of get an answer to that. Because one of our characters is turned into a mannequin and is unaware of that for a time.
Yes.
And I guess that kind of answers the question, barely, a little.
That is a terrific scene. But that so there is like some weird level of magic going on here. Obviously.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot more surreal than just the setup of creepy guy in the backwoods somewhere makes mannequins and kills people. Like that's basic setup. It's a little more complicated than that, and the movie never does really take its time to indulge and explain what that is. There's never, you know, they don't find some document in the basement about like the government trials on Mr. Slauson or anything like that. He doesn't have a big monologue to explain why he explains, you know, what happened to his family and things like that, but never does he go, by the way, let me tell you why I'm a sidekick. Like that never comes up, which I guess isn't so surprising to learn that the whole thing of him being telekinetic wasn't even originally in the script, I guess.
Yeah.
It was something they like included in really close to production on the film. They just thought, hey, throw this in there. It'll make it more interesting, I guess. Maybe they did have Carrie in their minds, but it's, you know, people love seeing that.
And that's odd to me that like the movie wasn't going to include that originally, because I watched the thesis film that it was based on, and it's really close in tone to this movie. It's called The Spider Will Kill You. It's like a 30-minute thesis that the director made before this movie, and it's like there's no telekinesis, but I can't imagine it being adapted into a movie that's not supernatural at all. So like that was weird to me to learn that. Yeah,
it definitely feels like a very special part of this film's identity and what makes it a little more particular when weighed against, you know, because a huge slasher boom happens right around this time. That's when it takes off. That's when your Nightmare on Elm Streets and Friday the 13th exist, but then there's all these other little smaller, you know, rip-offs and things like that, cash-ins, and this feels kind of different than that because it's making these weird choices that I don't think it would have made had it seen those other predecessors or what have you.
Yeah. Like I'm glad it came out when it did, for sure.
Yeah.
I think if they didn't add in the telekinesis like last minute, it would lose a lot of its charm. I don't think it would be as special as it is, and as weird and different. It would just be like another slasher that would just get lost in the fold. But the fact that it's like so many different things makes it so unique and so interesting.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that it kind of just seems scattered, like,
yeah,
you can kind of tell that like not everything in this movie started out that way. You know, it's like you can tell that like some shit was being shifted around behind the scenes. And I think that's great because like every interview I've read about this movie, they just spill the most tea. It's beautiful. Like I read an interview with the woman, the scene where the stranger to them is having her face covered in plaster.
Mm-hmm.
I read an interview with the actress. They left her there over lunch. Just forgot about her on the table. It's one of my favorite pieces of movie trivia now.
That's probably the most memorable. Well, definitely one of the most memorable scenes of the movie. You know,
can I tell you why that's my favorite scene?
Yeah, let's get that, and that's fine. We'll skip all around. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
because like two of our main characters, Tanya Roberts' character and the guy whose name I still don't know after seeing this movie so many times, they're tied up. This girl that's a stranger to them is like, he kidnapped me. I never saw him coming. He's gonna kill all of us, and they're just like they literally don't answer her or ask her a single question. They're just like, okay, we're kind of doing our thing. So like, it's so weird the way the characters interact with each other in this movie. Chef's kiss. It's just beautiful.
Yeah,
I never even considered that because he does have, you know, I at first thought it was going to be because one of their friends just kind of goes early in the film, but one of the female friends who wanders off doesn't get to doesn't find a place in all the complicated plot details later. She just kind of gets choked with her own scarf by a psychic man in a mask.
Oh, that
everyone else gets strung around a little bit, and they just got her out of the way pretty quick. She's like, I have a trip planned. I can't do this. I'm so sorry.
Scheduling commitment. I need to get off this as soon as possible. So just first scene. So like there's just a random woman who's also down there who also wandered through Lawson's neck of the woods. And I didn't even think about that. She's like, he's going to kill all of us. And they're like, all right. Anyway.
They have no response to that. They're just like, we're not the ones on the table. So like,
sucks.
Yeah. And she lays it out. She lays pretty much everything out.
She was honestly the only helpful character, and they just watched her die.
We were on a trip. The mannequins aren't what they seem. He's going to kill us all, turn us into mannequins. I'm telling you, like, you guys are going to die. And they're just like,
oh my God, this is a private conversation. Like, when are you
back out? Seriously.
Like, hey guys, I've actually already seen this whole movie. Let me tell you real quick what's going on. And they're just like, shut up. We're trying to watch. Like, shut up. Spoiler
like she was gonna have the exposition scene where like in 1946 a government and they're like shh, stop. It's so annoying, my God.
Drama.
We don't need to know why Slauson is doing this. Just let us figure out how to untie this rope real quick.
Yeah. You use the knife that's right behind you, Tanya Roberts. R.I.P. But like, should have noticed the knife earlier. But speaking of helpful people, the main character was the least helpful in the entire movie.
I think so.
Like, are we talking about Molly?
Yeah, well, like not towards the end. I'm just saying she watched every single one of her friends leave and go look for other friends, and she was like, I found a photo album. Like, this mannequin's pretty, and it's like, Molly, let's read the room. What's happening here?
I do love the part where she goes up and touches it, and she's like, say, this feels like flesh.
It's like, start walking. I don't care if you don't have a car.
She has one of my favorite scenes, and it's later on in the movie when she's trying to like run away. She's trying to escape, and the head of one of the mannequins falls off, and it's just screaming Molly in such a weird voice, like Molly. I just lost it.
I'll say the point for me where like the movie turned full camp was the second he started talking while wearing the mask.
Yes.
Like as soon as dialogue was added, I was just like, this is high camp. This is what I'm here for. I love it. Because he kept calling everyone like little girl, little boy. I'm like,
talked about how handsome he was.
Yeah.
Sir, you were way more handsome when you had the 10-gallon cowboy hat on. Like, lose the plaster, put the cowboy hat on.
Right?
Way more intimidating, way more handsome. Like, everybody in that basement would agree with him. Like, yes, you are handsome if you had the cowboy hat on.
Yeah, it's like, now, mask and hat, we have no frame of reference. It could be even better.
That could be pretty cool. That could be pretty cool.
Honestly, sequel.
He does have a couple masks. I'm a big fan of the one that I think he is wearing when he goes down in the basement. He's like, "We're having a party. Don't I look great?" And it's got like sideburns on the mask as well. It's like this weird Elvis mannequin mask. I think that's a really powerful look for him. He does look good. So that's the performance that I think kind of steals the show, right? Is Chuck Connors, who has this huge sort of old Hollywood storied career. He is a guy from like the golden age of westerns.
And do you know why he took the role?
I think I'd read a little bit about it. Yeah, why did he take that one?
He took the role because he thought it would be like a reinvention of his career, kind of like a Boris Karloff.
Yeah, he thought
he was like, "Oh, this is going to reinvent my career. Like, I'm going to go in this new direction. People are going to like notice me again." And nope.
No,
in the 80s did though, so he lived on in their hearts.
Yeah,
he didn't become the Boris Karloff of the 80s, but I couldn't really say why. Maybe just because nobody saw this movie, because I think he's pretty damn fantastic in it. I think he's a lot of fun, and he's doing something that I don't think, again, horror movie antagonists are quite doing yet, which are like having charisma and like having screen presence beyond just being a foreboding like Michael Myers. That's a scary screen presence, but he's not doing a song and dance number.
Yeah. He's not chewing the scenery. You put Nicolas Cage in any horror movie, and I guarantee it's elevated 100%. If Nicolas Cage was Leatherface or Michael Myers, you can argue those movies could be a lot better.
Yeah,
I would love to see it. I'd love to see it. I mean,
honestly, I would too.
The idea of like the funny or like charismatic, that obviously comes out with Freddy Krueger a few years after this. But he's playing it something different that I don't think people are really trying yet. He just got I was reading about him in general, Chuck Connors. He's just got like a fascinating life. He was played pro football or pro baseball and basketball. He's like credited as the first guy to ever smash the backboard of a basketball hoop.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Was the star of like a Western television show for years called Rifleman, and so like right.
Oh my god, that used to play on AMC every morning at like 2 a.m. I've seen the first 30 seconds of every episode of Rifleman.
Yeah, so they're knowingly playing with your expectations of Chuck Connors, because as soon as he shows up, like you've noted there, Connor, 10-gallon hat, big old rifle. He's got a rifle in his hands, and he's basically playing that good old boy. Like he sits on the hill all sad. Well, he's very creepy because he very clearly comes up on young women skinny dipping, and
very comfortable scene that feels okay to watch.
That is the one scene that made it PG, is because the director was too shy during auditions to ask if like they'd be comfortable with nudity. And so when the scene finally came up, he finally was like, "Hey, will you guys do nudity for this scene?" And they were like, they all said no. And so they started without nudity. And that's what they were like, well, the violence isn't strong enough for the R, and there's no nudity to make it R. So we're going with PG. So
no blood, no nips. Gotta let the kids see it.
Yeah,
I love the visual of the director like kind of like scratching his neck, like coming up to him as they're like in the green room or whatever, wherever they're at. I guess there's maybe not a green room there, but he comes up and, what do you guys think about going, full frontal on this? And they're just like in unison, like, no. On tourist trap? No.
It had to be the way he asked it. Like, will you guys show bub?
Here's the thing, though. I'm honestly kind of glad because just given the context of the scene, I would have not have felt comfortable if Slauson was just staring at these girls full nude the whole time. I might have turned it off. Like, I don't like the vibe here.
Yeah. It would change the tone because the movie really relies on you not knowing how to read his character for like a good half of the film. He obviously you do put your guard up a little bit when he shows up because of the context of him walking up on these women skinny dipping. But you're like, okay, I mean, if this is his property, I guess he would find that peculiar. And he's like, sitting there like, well, nobody's slow. Everybody's in such a hurry these days. Like, it's just such a, like, it's just such a thing some old person says, or they're remembering how it used to be. And he's kind of sad and his wife's passed away. And
I'll say that, like, the actor worked much harder than the script did to try to convince us that he might be okay. Like, he did everything he could. The text didn't, but he did. So I commend him for that effort. Because the reveal when she knocks off the mask, it's like, oh my god, it wasn't his brother that we've never met. That's insane. But that's also gives us my favorite line from the movie, which is where she says, "You," which best delivery ever. It's amazing.
I do like what's it? Jocelyn Jones, that's who plays Molly. I do like how sort of shocked and just horrified she is of them. Like, she does sell it really well, and you get this sort of proto slasher. So like the idea of the final girl still not really solidified, even though this completely has that going for it. And it feels like she's even pretty much telegraphed as that character from the start. Like, she dresses a little more modestly than everybody else. She's a little more empathetic.
We don't have bathing suits. Let's go with the nice man, like that kind of thing. Yeah. It's like it's kind of like if she were in an 80s movie, she would have been the one like, let's not set the nerd on fire. He might kill us in 20 years. Like that kind of character.
Yeah, it feels like they're telegraphing her as that, which is interesting that they get to that conclusion because that's still not quite a cliche yet. That's coming. Obviously Halloween exists, but it still isn't such a staple of the genre yet. So it's interesting that they get there too. But no, I do think she's good in it. Playing it is very much like playing overly sweet, but by the time it gets to that point where she's the one running through the woods and having to fight off this guy, and that scene, she really does do a great, like, her entire world is like she's going she's losing her mind. She can't believe
like the last act of the movie, she's so good, honestly. Like at first it really was kind of a thankless character because it was like, oh my god, help your friends, but like when she's in her element and she's all panicked and stuff, she just absolutely sells every scene she's in. It's great.
Yeah, she's really great. And I mean, it's true. It does pretty much also telegraph from the start that Chuck Connors is going to be the bad guy too. Like I was, at first as soon as he showed up, I was like, so here's like the red herring. Like, he's going to be I was waiting for something else to be introduced where like you could have reasonable doubt of like, oh, maybe this person's the killer. Like maybe something else is going on. But yeah, you immediately suspect that's what's happening. And so it almost is like a weird anti-subversion of expectation when it just is him too. You're like, oh yeah, I thought you were gonna do something else, but it's just him.
Like the first time I watched it, I was like, is it too obvious that it's him? Are they gonna manage to trick me? And they didn't, but that's fine. I still liked it. And again, like just her saying you like that, amazing. Like I want a poster of just that scene. It's great.
It's so earnest. You would think she had been like friends with him for 20 years and it was like, oh my god, it was you this whole time, like not just this weirdo she met 10 hours ago.
Like I don't know if you guys have seen the clip of Elizabeth Taylor saying married, but it's the exact same energy. Exact same. It's wonderful.
It's
I highly recommend checking that out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, the only actress that I recognized, like, because I didn't know who Chuck Connors was when I watched this, but obviously like Tanya Roberts. Like I grew up watching that '70s show, so I knew her. Like that was like who I held on to the first time I watched the movie, and she honestly felt like the main character at certain points.
Yeah.
Like we focused on her a lot. It was like, even though she doesn't have like fit the mold, because they were telegraphing this one girl like she's innocent, she wants to do the right thing. But we spent a lot of time with Tanya Roberts' character, like compared to the other friends.
Yeah, and when we do shift back to Molly, we kind of forget about her for a while, and then we shift back to her. And I was like, wait, who is the main character of this movie?
Yeah.
It's Mr. Slauson. He's the real MVP. No, it's true. Yeah, Becky's the character's name, right? She's kind of the one who's getting them in the most trouble. She just has to wander around. There's that big house down the hill. She's like, let's go in. Let's go check out. Like, why would you need to go check out the house, Becky? Just leave it alone. Everything's fine. She goes in. Her scene. Okay, so when she sneaks into that house and is cornered by the mannequins, I gotta say, those mannequins are pretty fucking scary.
Yeah, honestly. I think part of it is just like most of them do look like typical mannequins. Like, I feel like if this were made today, a lot of them would be like bald Silent Hill type mannequins. The fact that they all just kind of look like people really works for me.
Yeah.
And also the sound design where like their humming bleeds into the music. Love that. And then you have
it really took me a while to like go, okay, something supernatural is happening here. I was trying to figure out how like reasonably these mannequins, because you're right, they're, first of all, the production design is great because they're basically always in the background of every single scene. There's always a face here, different varying levels of detail where it's like, yeah, some of them seem just like plain old mannequins. Some of them seem like they can look around on their own. Some of them can blink. Some of them can talk. Some
and
of them,
exactly one has a goblin face. Exactly.
Yeah, which that one does come back towards the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, she shows back up. I do think it's funny because like we see how the mannequins are made. Like he makes plasters of people. So like, is this what this poor person looked like when they were alive?
Yeah, it's unclear like what level of craftsmanship goes into it, and then like what does it mean for them to have a life? Like, is it just all coming back from his own weird superpower, or it? But that's, I think, kind of leaving you lost in the plot, so it makes it kind of creepy and disorienting because you're just like, wait, what? Like, there's a guy running around in a mask, but there's also a bunch of mannequins, and it seems like they have varying levels of consciousness, and they might jump out and grab you, but other ones are just they might open the door and like 10 will fall on you.
Yeah, sometimes they just pile. I didn't really think about this until now, but if we consider the fact that like he probably made mannequins before he started murdering, maybe only like half of them are conscious. Like maybe half of them are just regular mannequins and the other half are like, we're fucking people, this sucks.
Yeah,
probably that.
The like, and you mentioned it, Davis, the sounds they make, where sometimes they do kind of bleed into the score or the other sound design in the film, and it's just this weird kind of monotonous like song they just sort of belt, and the way their mouths just kind of drop open like a ventriloquist, right? And they're just
such a simple like cheap effect, but it works for this weird movie.
It's just so surreal. It reminded me. This is a weird pull, especially if you don't know what I'm talking about. There's like this weird video that goes back like years ago.
Oh my god!
Is it I Feel Fantastic?
You guys know what I'm talking about? I Feel Fantastic?
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I guess that I almost have to believe that I Feel Fantastic is somewhat inspired by this because it's pretty. Should I pull it up? I wonder. That's probably not copyright audio, right? I Feel Fantastic.
I don't know.
So
let me see. I wouldn't think so.
I'll pull it up real quick, maybe for people who haven't seen or heard this. I feel it's just this weird, like viral, like people talk about the weird part of YouTube. I feel like this is like goes back years ago, but
yeah, and there's like a huge like conspiracy around it. It's
Oh yeah, yeah. It was like I think it's like a copy pasta, or like a creepy pasta, where they were like, "Oh, he murdered victims and he dressed up this mannequin in their clothes," and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's scary as shit, but like, okay.
Let's see if you can. Here we go.
so creepy.
It's called "I Feel Fantastic." If you were to look it up at home, it's all you have to type in. But this is just
I hate her.
a classic weird internet video, and like the tone of its voice, the way it moves. I was like, oh my god! When I watched this movie, I was like, oh my god, this is. One thing has only ever made me feel this way in my life, and it's I feel fantastic.
I would love to know what this robot's doing today, what it looks like, what condition it's in. This has to be 10 years old at least, right? What year is this? Do you know?
Let me see. I think what was this? I don't. This might not be the original upload. That's also the question too of like when did this actually come out? But I think this upload was in 2009. It's from a channel called Creepy Blood, which makes me feel like it's not the original upload.
No, it's not the original. I think it was like 2006 when it's one of the first YouTube videos like uploaded. But
that's even more weird.
What a way to start things off.
And there were others, and then it just mysteriously just stopped uploading. Like the channel stopped uploading because the channel uploaded like a few different videos like this, and it just stopped out of nowhere. And they were like, "Oh, he got caught for like killing people." Yeah, it's like a crazy conspiracy, but it's so creepy.
I mean, if I were the guy that made these, it would take one person saying, "Hey, is that your house that the creepy mannequin video shot in?" for me to never do it again.
Yeah,
it's like, why the hell would you do?
I don't want you to know what I'm doing.
I love that there is no real other context about this that I'm aware of. Like that, no one ever. Oh yeah, this shot always confuses people. This weird, random
because
shot
people
of the backyard.
people in the YouTube comments used to be like, if you look really close, you can see a bot. It's like,
Yeah, this is the shot that really like got people on the conspiracy train, where they were like, "That's where he buried the bodies."
He's just submitting this evidence to us for free. It's like, catch me if you can.
That's how it always goes in the creepypasta. I can still hear it. Make it stop. There we go. Okay, that's how it always goes in the creepypasta series, right? It always.
I now consider I Feel Fantastic to be a spiritual sequel to Tourist Trap.
Because it's shot kind of the same way.
Yeah,
it's very low budget, like.
And I haven't read that much about Tourist Trap, but like, were they filming on sets in this movie? Do you guys know?
I know that the director had convinced them. There was a house set to be demolished. I think they did shoot this in California. I could be wrong about that, but I read that they had scheduled to demolish a house and he had convinced them not to, and that's where they did shoot the majority of this movie in. But outside of that, there were obviously still, like, I'm sure like the museum is a set, but like I think whenever they're in the house, that is an actual like dilapidated house.
Yeah, because I noticed it felt really claustrophobic, like for a movie. Yeah. Like I wasn't sure if that was intentional, but like you can see the ceiling a lot and everything. I just kind of noticed that on rewatching it. It just kind of has that like liminal space effect that makes it creepy.
Yeah, especially towards the end when they're trying to get to Molly and they're trying to hide from Slauson. And like the hallways are just lined with all these mannequins.
Yeah.
It's so claustrophobic. Like it made me start feeling like stressed out. Like I was stressed out towards that last like 20 minutes. Like I was just getting so cranky.
That's cranky.
Like my fiance is like, "Are you hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can eat whatever." Whatever.
That's a new one. I've never heard I've never heard your reaction to one of these movies be cranky.
No, this last 20 minutes made me so stressed out. It virtually made me cranky. Like I just got so cranky. I was like, "Get me out of this house."
I'm so happy I could make that happen for you.
It really is the first time.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Always new experiences here on Really Scared. The last couple minutes of this are pretty damn great. And again, I just want to reiterate how, for me, probably the most disturbing death scene is probably the one in the basement still, where I feel like I gotta call that scene out one more time, because Chuck Connors is doing a lot of the heavy lifting on it. It works. It's so effective because of what he's saying, the voiceover and stuff. Because on its surface, it's very silly. He's covering this lady's face, and what I found was refrigerated pizza dough was what that stuff actually is. I hadn't heard that they just left her there. That's hilarious. But I did read that they had shot that scene like over and over again, so I'd have to reset.
Oh God!
Scrape all that gunk off her face, start over, and just keeps piling her face in pizza dough again and again and again. But kind of like almost could have been a very silly visual, but what he's describing is like, oh, it feels so good on your skin, but soon it will burn, and don't worry, you won't suffocate, you'll die from fear. Like, it's just such a great...
And he called it. He was right on the money. I don't know how he knew it would happen. Like, part of that, like that scene in the back of my mind, even though I know I'm thinking about it more than the director was, it's like, did he stop her heart with telekinesis just so he would be right? Like, was he proving a point?
You could have called his bluff. That would have been great. Yeah, if you were down there, you would have called his bluff. He's putting on this whole show. He thinks he's so cool, and he's like, your heart will explode because you're so afraid. And you'd be in the audience like, no, I don't think that's
not
real.
That afraid.
If I had been in that theater in 1979, I would have led a revolt out of the doors. Like, I'm sorry, this movie doesn't make enough sense for us. We're going to need an explanation on the heart-stopping scene.
Her heart up with his telekinesis powers. Lame. Don't believe it.
If this movie was made today, we would have like hour-long YouTube videos from these film channels like Tourist Trap Explained. That's
everything wrong with Tourist Trap in 10 minutes or less. Number one, mannequins don't move like that. Ding. Like, fucking Cinnamon Sins.
Yeah.
Did Slauson actually make her heart explode with his telekinesis? Let's explore.
Let's explore. Let's go over why this is a plot hole. That's great internet content.
Minutes before, we see him moving a key with his mind.
Mm-hmm. It's really anyone's guess what happened.
It's one of the things I love about it, though, is that it really doesn't care about why he's like that. All that matters is he is like that, and these people have to deal with it. And
I'll give this movie credit. Like, I feel like we've all taken shots at its writing so far, but it has one exposition scene. It doesn't really explain a lot, and it doesn't help the movie. But there's only one. There's only one where he's just like, yeah, my wife and my brother were hooking up, had to kill him. It's the law, though. It was legal, which I was like, hold on. Were things different in 79, or are you just lying?
Because if you're mad enough, murder's legal.
I mean, that's basically what he said. I didn't think he would try to justify it like that. He's like, what else could I do? But instead he's like, no, federally, like, that was legal. I'm off the hook.
Like, oh, did you call the police? And like, no, it's fine. It's legal.
Like, all these other murders, I can be pinned down for those, but like, wife, brother, I'm good. Don't even come at me. That
is a good point. He doesn't really pause to think. You know, obviously what he's doing now is pretty premeditated. It doesn't feel like a crime of passion. To lure nude women back to your museum so you could turn them into mannequins. You know, that's a little more of a process. Yeah, I think he'd have a hard time in court with that. But I do also think it's interesting that of the two real exposition scenes you could get, they decided to go with, well, let's just talk about why he's such a weirdo. Instead of being like, let's talk about why he has superpowers. They're like, no,
it doesn't matter why he has superpowers. Why is his wife dead? That's the plot.
Why is he such an asshole? And he just, I killed them both, and I live out here by myself, and I make mannequin people, and I don't know. I've always been like this. I can just do this with my mind.
We could be boring and explain the telekinesis, but let's explain why he's traumatized.
Yeah.
Instead.
Did you know that the mannequin that plays his wife, like the actual actress that plays that mannequin as his wife, was the director's wife in real life. I didn't know that. And she was supposed to have like a lot of lines, like kind of exploring the backstory, but the director cut them, which caused a lot of tension in the marriage, and they ended up getting divorced after like it was released.
No,
because she was like, "Where'd all my lines go?" And it caused a bunch of tension, and they got divorced.
I thought she was good in that one scene where she kind of talked.
Yeah,
I thought she did a fine job.
Divorces, which it makes sense because this movie made me so cranky. I was not being the nicest person on earth.
So I guess it failed to restart a career and it ended a marriage.
Yeah.
Love it. There's so many reasons to love this movie.
A Curse of Tourist Trap. There's also apparently Linnea Quigley apparently plays one of the mannequins in the movie somewhere. I don't know which one it is, but obviously for those who don't know, that's like horror movie, B movie royalty, you know, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Return of the Living Dead, like tons of horror movies and B movies and stuff like that. And apparently she just is somewhere in the movie with like a mannequin mask on, which is also a weird quality. It's like some mannequins are actors and others are just actually mannequins, and there's just this weird disparity trying to figure out which one is which. And then, you know, after Molly's captured, and we do have that scene where we learn about Mr. I keep calling Mr. Slauson. They give him a first name too. Davey, right? They call him Davey. Yeah, is Davey his brother's name? I mean, obviously they're the same person. By the way,
maybe Davey is. It doesn't matter, but
which they do. In the credits they do distinguish. Like they do credit somebody as playing his brother. Like they actually credit somebody else as playing that character. They made up an actor for it. So they
I didn't notice that because it is the same actor playing.
It is
both Davey and what's his name?
Mr. Slauson.
Do they ever give the first name?
They might.
I've seen this so many times and I cannot tell you.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Maybe they don't. Maybe it's Mr. Slauson and Davey.
And Davey.
His first name's Mr. and that's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know, Mr. Slauson. But yeah, it's the same actor, and he was like, we need to like kind of throw people off the trail of like Davey is actually Mr. Slauson.
Yeah.
So Mr. Slauson is going to have a limp.
Yeah.
Oh,
clearly that does not help at all because obviously everybody called it. Like, he's the killer.
It's weird, especially like when you think about like his supernatural abilities. Like, why would he even need to go that route? And also, this is like a little off target, but like, can we discuss the fact that he teleported in one scene?
Like, I don't know. He does basically have like kind of the slasher, like somehow in two places at once. Like, like you're walking. Like,
what I'm thinking of is when I just forgot her name. Our main character, the heroine, Molly. Yeah, when she like backs away into like the pond area again at night, and he's somehow already underwater.
Yeah. which is a great reveal. Scene. Him like coming up over the water is a great reveal because he's just like got this weird smile on his face, and it's just you're going down, just pushes her on. And I thought she was done deal right there. I was like, oh my god, what is the rest of the movie gonna be? He just drowned her. But no, he's fine. He knows what he's doing. Gotta look out for those what do you call them? Like mud sandals at the start of the film. Get out of the lake. There's mud sandals in there. Like whatever he called them.
Water moccasins. Water moccasins.
Yeah. Water moccasins. Mud sandals.
Mud sandals. Same thing, dude.
Is mud sandal like the Loveland frog? Like, is that some lore that I haven't explored yet?
Yeah, if I go get my my cryptid map, there's probably a mud sandal somewhere in there.
Mud sandal is the dirtier version of Sandals Resort. It's kind of like the cheaper, like more economic version of Sandals Resort.
It's on the other side of the island.
It's sandals, but at Lake Erie. Mud sandals. No, that's true. He does kind of just teleport around. And then you get, I think, doesn't he have they kind of have fun with it too. Once you know he is the killer, we still have all that stuff with Becky where it's like we, the audience, now know he's the bad guy, but she doesn't. And so like they figure out kind of a fun other way to build suspense of like she sees him, she's like, oh, thank God it's you. She trusts him, lets him like carry her back to the museum, and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop on this. I thought that was a fun, I think a lot of people would think logically you kill all those characters off, then the rest of the movie is just him and Molly and like the jig is up. I thought it was kind of fun to go back and now like you're in on it, but characters aren't.
Yeah. Also, props to Becky for trusting anyone at that point. It got her killed. Really shouldn't have trusted him, but like what a kind person that Becky. Just through and through, good gal.
Yeah, and that scene in the museum is wonderful too. Her getting up and the reveal of like him just he's not even playing games anymore. He's just sitting in his recliner smiling,
maskless, just watching it go down. The craziest trivia for this movie that just boggles my mind, because you would assume in a movie with mannequins, if you're throwing a knife at a character's head, just probably use a mannequin. No, they taped a wood block to Tanya Roberts' head and threw a knife at it.
Yeah.
I would never agree to do that in a million years. I don't know why she did.
It does sound pretty fucking dangerous still.
Like there are like minimum 30 mannequins in that room. Put a black wig on one. That's Tanya Roberts. Why did you throw a knife at her head?
I had read the little thing about they just hit a wooden block under her hair. It never occurred to me that yes, they do have dozens upon dozens of fake people all over the set of the movie.
Like they
lifelike
designed a mannequin to look like her. Had they not built it yet? They're like, not yet. And then even still, it's the back of her head. Literally any mannequin, but it's like,
we haven't finished the face, so we're gonna have to tape like wooden block to the back of your head.
Like, hey, young actress in the prime of your life, can we throw a knife at your skull? It's like, sure, fine.
Yeah, you think it's like, well, it's a movie, it's a fake knife, right? No. But don't worry, we'll put a wooden block back there. You'll feel it's gonna be great. It's gonna look awesome. It's gonna look really good.
I hope she had better experiences on the James Bond movies, because my God, if someone threw a knife at me, like, especially if that was one of my first movies, I would be out of the business. I would be out so fast.
I think she's pretty much done with horror movies after this. So it's like, learn my lesson. I'm out of here.
And she did unfortunately pass away earlier this year. It's another reason I wanted to talk about this. It's like, because someone actually mentioned that on my TikTok, like right after she passed. They were like, can you make a video about Tourist Trap for Tanya Roberts? And as I was making that video, the news broke that she hadn't actually passed away.
Right.
Oh, I forgot.
Right after I posted the video. And then, so I made another video where I like corrected it and was like, my bad, she's not dead. And then the next day she actually died, so I deleted everything. I was just like, fuck it. I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, what was going on? It took them like a whole week to figure out she was dead. Like, that was so bizarre.
From what I understand, I don't know if it was her husband or just her partner, but they were like, they basically told him like, this is it. And he just immediately left the hospital and told the news that she was dead without ever confirming that for himself. I don't know. Grief's weird. I don't know how it went down, but it was a very confusing experience to me. I've never had that many people telling me I was wrong about opposite things at the same time. So yeah, I felt like I needed to talk about Tourist Trap a little better in 2021. Go into a little bit more, correct that mistake.
Yeah, this is the definitive Tourist Trap conversation. We've got all of the locked in facts about Tourist Trap tonight. But no, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because she did sadly pass away this past year, and she's great in this. Obviously, the biggest star coming out of this, Chuck Connors is of another era. His star is kind of waning at this point. He does not become Boris Karloff of the '80s, and she's on the rise, right? So it's good to mention that. Yeah, she is good in this. She's plays a great role in this. We should probably talk, I guess, about kind of the finale after we do have that horrifying scene, by the way, where he's putting the mask on Molly and starts kissing the mask while it's on her face. He's going to replace he's going to turn her into his wife is his grand plan. That's the only time, where it really slows down. And he's like, let me tell you what the rest of the movie's going to be about. Which is also pretty great. I love his scary guy voice is really great too.
I appreciate a villain that tells you exactly what's going to happen before it happens. He lays everything out on the table. He doesn't leave you guessing. Like, what a nice guy when you think about it. Just really genuine. But yeah, the entire finale, loved it so much. Like, again, I think a lot of it has to do with the music. The way they blended that into the scenes worked so well. In a movie where, like, a lot of things don't work well, a lot of things do, but like the music in that final scene and the performance of the actress that played Molly, everything was wonderful. Also, Chuck Connors, one of the best death scenes in movie history. Love a good slow fall forward. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's a very sort of simple end for him after all this extra stuff he's throwing out there, all this grandstanding superpowers. He's got his whole museum. He just gets a freaking axe to the neck like any old fashioned idiot.
Yeah,
we're all equal at the end of the day. Death's coming for us all. He couldn't even. He was too busy twirling around, dancing with one of his wife's mannequins to even see it. But we did also. Because I almost had forgotten about it until you mentioned it earlier, Davis, was when what's the character? The other male friend.
Jerry.
Not Woody? Oh, Jerry. Now I know
we do
his
see
name.
Woody. Becky finds Woody, right? When she's like, Woody, is that you? Is this freaky mannequin of him?
It's like, it kind of is, Becky. Look a little closer. Like, Jesus.
I do want to backtrack to the score real quick. Apparently the score, I can't remember who did it.
Oh, yeah. I had it pulled up as well. Pino Donaggio.
Yeah, apparently his fee was 1/6 of the budget, which was like almost $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. I think.
And his fee was 1/6 of the budget. And when he turned in the final score, they hated it because the director wanted something more like synthy, like a John Carpenter kind of score.
Make it like Halloween. That was
exactly
like that.
Yeah, but they just went with it, and I just want to throw out that
I will say the humming and all that build up music's great, but like the opening credits music that plays a couple more times throughout, very jarring, never quite seems to fit.
It's kind of like
it, but it's a little out there, but. It's one of those things where when I rewatch it, I now love that score, where it's just like wah 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 wah, like right in the middle of your scary mannequin movie. I'm like, yes, hit me with it.
It's so like whimsical, and I'm like, what am I supposed to feel here?
Because the scene where we finally see him and the brother mannequin talking, he puts the head back on, and it actually talks to him. That's so creepy to me. Yeah. But behind it, you just hear. Wah, 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 wah. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah. It's weird, but I agree. There's these really weird, quirky moments in the score, but I think it is adding a lot to how distinct the tone of this movie is, because it would have been easy for it to just be a rip off of Carpenter, and that certainly comes out too. Like the whole 80s horror synth, like that's such a well known genre of and style of scoring,
still used today.
Yeah, and it's
it's in Godzilla versus Kong. Like there's so much synth like.
Yeah, we're in a big synth like wave renaissance. And God, we know we freaking open our show up with it every single week. We love it, but it not being present here does make this stand out a little bit more. It has these weird like string moments, and there's like I don't even know there's like these quirky things where it's like when there's that great scene where he's sitting there with. Like the mannequin that's supposed to be his brother, and he's like feeding it soup. He's like, "Go on, have a cracker. How's the cracker?" And then their head falls off. It's like this weird.
God. He's like, gotta fix that.
Another like favorite scene of mine is the crackers scene.
Yeah, it's this
like very the crackers are good, huh?
Like slapstick comedy scene. It's so like, and that's not just coming from the score. If you put scary music behind that, it'd be maybe even weird. Like it calls for it. It's such a weird, like, hey, let's have a funny moment with this man who's killing people.
The score reminds me a lot of like Danny Elfman.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so like whimsical and like just kind of goofy almost. Like kind of like the 2017 Justice League. We're not going to get into Justice League, I promise. But like,
damn, I have 4 hours on my hands.
And put in Danny Elfman, and there's supposed to be like a serious scene at the beginning, and it's just Danny Elfman's score, like so like whimsical and goofy, and I'm like, all right, it's just like so like weird.
I will say that Tourist Trap and the 17 cut of Justice League have very similar tone problems. I think they work more in Tourist Trap's favor, but
4 hour like, Tourist Trap cut.
Oh my god, I'm here for it. But I think like the reasons I love movies like Tourist Trap, where it's like with age, I think that its flaws become quirks. And I wouldn't have appreciated this movie if it had had a better production value. Like if it had a score that fit every scene perfectly, I don't think that would have made this movie better. It's like everything working in combination is what puts the serotonin in my brain. That's what I love about it. I wouldn't change a thing. Well, no, I wouldn't change a thing. But
I gotta say the ending shocked me. I really didn't see the ending coming when she's driving down the road and it gets closer and closer.
This has one of my favorite final shots I've ever seen in a movie, period. Like, bar none. The final shot of this is insane. It is bonkers, the implication of it. Yeah, her driving down the road in the car she got all her friends back, but they're all mannequins.
What is the next step?
What's the next day? Like,
did I miss Jerry being killed?
So that's the thing, you don't see, because he jumps out the window like an action hero and then he runs off into the night.
Which was actually the actor who jumped out of the window.
Really?
Like, we don't have a time for stuntman. We spent all our budget on Chuck Connors and the soundtrack.
Again, I'm going to say it could have been a mannequin, but it's whatever.
That's a great point. No one
throw it out
done
the
any
window.
Stunts. Yeah,
no one. You have so many mannequins at your disposal. That's all you have.
Tie a couple wood blocks to that mannequin, throw it through the window.
A sixth of the budget is the score. The other 5 mannequins. You have so many.
I do wonder, would they like just dumpster diving at like JCPenney's and department stores?
I would love to know.
Collecting all these. But
I hope they sent some PA around just to ask for mannequins.
Yeah. But Connor, so you don't necessarily, John Van Ness's character, Jerry, you don't necessarily see what happens to him, but he shows back up at the end.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's going to be the hero of the story. And
he accidentally ran in a circle.
And Davy's like, actually, no, you're a mannequin. I don't think you realize this, but you're a mannequin. And I control you with my mind. And his freaking arms pop off. which is beautiful. Again, it's like, it makes you go, what are the rules of this movie? And it's not going to bother to tell you. You just have to roll.
Yeah, there really are none, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It's like they kind of just made this script up as they went along, telekinesis-wise. They were like, we don't really have an explanation. He has it. Sometimes they're mannequins, sometimes they're people. It's Tourist Trap. Watch it.
Do a little dance to this one. First. Do a little dance to this mannequin. She turns into my wife for a little while. You know, like.
No lines, though.
No lines. Cut them out. She must have been dreadful, right? Your own wife. Like, I can't.
Oh, my God.
You know, like.
Sorry, I would have divorced him, too, if I'm being real. Like, I wouldn't have stayed in that marriage. Like, I don't care how bad my acting is. You don't cut my lines, spouse.
To take that stance, right, of like, you're the love of my life, and I'm making this goofy slasher movie, but God, I just can't leave these in here. Like, I'm more willing to take the stress and the argument that's gonna and the divorce that's gonna stem from this than to taint my vision of Tourist Trap. Like, that's a man who believes in his art, I suppose, right?
Do you think if he could have seen the final box office gross, would he have left the lines in?
You know what?
If he had known like how well the movie would have done, do you think he would have just been like, we can leave him?
Just leave him in.
It's fine.
You know what? You did great, honey. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, at this point, what did he have to lose? Like, just leave the lines in. Maybe it would have done better.
He must have been terrible.
What if there's like an 11 out of 10 movie hidden in her lines and he just deleted them out of spite? He was like, she can't take over this whole movie. She's all people are going to talk about. I have to cut them out. She can't overshadow me.
Yeah.
I think this woman was probably an acting genius and we just never got to see her career blossom.
Yeah.
That's my
male ego.
Typical Hollywood. You hate to see it. This is such a typical Hollywood film.
Again, the blueprint. It's the only movie.
I do want to just meditate again on this final shot one more time because it is striking. But not only just the visual of all your friends are mannequins, and she actually went through the effort of like, I'm gonna find all of them, throw them in the car. She fixed the car somehow. Like the car was broke. You know, maybe the car.
I never thought about that. Oh my god!
Which is like, Molly, if you knew what you were doing in the first place, you should have done this hours ago. You just fixed the car.
Molly was raised by 2 mechanics. She just failed to mention that.
unless he was pulling some like weirdo mind tricks that they drove by. He's gonna make the engine stall now. Like he's got to. Apparently, nobody comes there, but he keeps finding people. So maybe he's using his powers to like make people.
And that would be a great scene, like. Just seeing him in the bushes, like, or even like an over-the-shoulder shot of just someone we don't know who it is, but just like fingers up to the temples, like.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been a great shot.
He never seems to have to put effort into telekinesis. It just kind of happens when he wants.
He doesn't need to touch his temples, but still would have been a great.
Absolutely.
Just looks over here, window shut, doors closing. Jar flying at your head, like he just looks and it moves. He's really good at this. He
hates glass. That's something I wanted to mention. He hates glass.
He does love just breaking stuff in the room for the hell of it. He loves it.
Yeah, like when like
opening scene, he breaks so much glass. It's like, did you need to break the jar? Jesus Christ! Throw a book.
And like when the mannequins are like shooting at Tanya Roberts. And they're just breaking everything. I'm like, don't you live here? Why would you? You don't know that your character is gonna die yet. You're destroying your house, dude. Like, what's happening?
Like, just throw some books. You can pick the books up, but you're gonna have to sweep up glass.
Like, I don't know. I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but you could just shoot her. And like, I know that wouldn't be much of a movie, but he would do a lot less damage to his home that he lives in.
Seriously.
That's all I'm saying. If you're a murderer out there, ignore that I said that. But everyone else agree with me.
The fun is in it's all a game fun. The fun is in the chase, not the destination, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they're all going to be mannequins anyway.
Yeah.
The expression on Molly's face when she's driving off into the sunset, it looks like this weird, almost triumphant expression of like, I did it, and tomorrow's a new day. But it's like, I don't know if the movie's if you're supposed to feel like, yeah, at the end, like we did it, or if you're like, God, this woman's going to just be so traumatized for the rest of her life.
So I lean a little farther towards the second one. I did watch an interview with the director where apparently he's like very complimentary of this actress, where like I feel like a lot of people would have like labeled her difficult like in situations like this, but he was like, she taught me how to work with actors. And I actually like really admire like that way of reflecting on things. But basically he didn't have a direction to give her in that last scene. Like he was like, I don't know what I want you to do. I just got out of film school, dude. Like, and she was like, whatever, I'll figure it out. And so like her interpretation was, she's an 8-year-old going to her best friend's birthday party. And like, that was the look that she was going for. I was like, I like that. That makes it creepy. So like, that was like definitely a character choice. Like the look on her face, like that was just all the actress. And I really like it. I thought it worked. Because it does leave you wondering, it's like, is she just fucked up? Like
I think it's a great choice because it's such a perfect like exclamation point on the tone of the whole movie, where it's just like, you don't know whether you're happy for her, if you're upset. She's alive, but Just the I will be thinking about the visual of all of her friends in the backseat for like the next couple of weeks. I can't get that image out of my head.
And I love that there's no transition to it. It's like her screaming bloody murder, and then it's like right away, just smash cut.
Going home.
Driving time.
And the bit about like getting straight out of film school and like not knowing how to direct this scene. It's so weird because the studio originally like wanted John Carpenter to direct this, and that harkens back to all the kind of homages to John Carpenter. But yeah, they wanted him to direct, and he was like, no. So it's so weird. In an alternate universe, there's a John Carpenter's Tourist Trap out there.
John Carpenter was like, I made enough off of Halloween. I've got my cigarettes for the year. Like, I don't need those. How's that man alive? But like,
the
yeah,
director,
I would love
we keep calling him the director. His name's David Schmoller, and he does go on to get his own horror franchise. Connor, I don't know if you caught this, but he is the man behind The Puppet Master.
Oh shit, that's right.
And I think he directed every last one of those movies.
I rewatched it. I think I looked it up because I know he directed the first one, and then I noticed that he directed like the 25th one as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Took a break, but yeah, I've only seen a few Puppet Masters because I just don't have 80 years. I don't know how many you guys have seen, but
certainly not all of them.
I've seen 4, and I think there's like 10 of them.
There's a lot, and apparently because those are full moon features, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I know a lot of those are like kind of connected, so there's like half sequels and spin-offs and all that kind of stuff. And now I think they make movies about like evil bongs or something. I'm not sure.
Yes,
you're right. Yeah, he directed the very first one in 1989, and then suddenly decided to do Puppet Master Blitzkrieg Massacre in 2018. But he skipped all the other ones and said, you know what? This one, it's time for me to return to the franchise and bring a touch of class back. That's the one. I haven't seen Blitzkrieg Massacre, but that's the one where there's like a Nazi doll or something.
Yes, that is one I've seen. I've seen the Nazi one.
I recently rewatched the first 2, and like there was a fair amount of Nazi talk in both of those. I think the Nazis were just there from the beginning. Maybe not. Maybe they were more involved later. I haven't seen the later movies.
No,
the first 2, they were just kind of like, yeah, we're kind of in relation to Nazis, and it's like, okay,
yeah, Blitzkrieg really like leans into the like Nazi lore behind it,
which is everyone's favorite part of Puppet Master. So I'm not surprised that they did that.
I see David Schmoller coming back to Puppet Master to do the Blitzkrieg one. It's like Ridley Scott coming back after all those years, after Alien. He says, you know what, I'm going to return and I'm going to put a new spin on this. It's time for the master to take control once more. This
was David Schmoller's Prometheus.
We're getting back to the basics. We're finding the heart of this franchise once more. It's something like that. By the same token, Schmoller want to come back, Tourist Trap 2, or a prequel. That's what they would do, right? They do a prequel. It's like, let's do a 2-hour movie about why he's psychic. That's what they would do.
They're gonna do a movie that's absolutely a sequel, but they're just gonna call it Tourist Trap again because that's what you do now. It's like you revisit like the surviving character 40 years later. It's just the same title as the old movie.
Yeah.
So numbers are for losers. The like I think, what is it they're remaking now? Is it like they're remaking something I just read about the other day where it's going to have the same title as the original. What am I trying to...
Yeah. Obviously, Halloween's one. It's like made that popular, which is funny because
there's another one coming out.
I know, I'm pissed. I can't think of it.
Massacre?
I think the new one's just called... like the original one was probably called what? Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like this one will be called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Or no, the original one's called so this one will just be called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Can't forget Texas Chainsaw 3D, the only other movie ever made besides Tourist Trap. It's just those two.
Your thing, cuz.
God. I watched that movie for the first time like 2 weeks ago. Can't believe I waited that long.
I saw it in 3D in theaters.
Wow.
I'm so jealous.
That shit in real 3D.
I'm pretty sure I've only ever seen like one horror movie in 3D, and that was Silent Hill Revelation, and I'm just never going back. That was the most upsetting experience of my life.
3D, surprisingly. I saw My Bloody Valentine 3D.
I think I was like 4 when that came out. I'm not sure, so like I don't know if I got the opportunity. You have to remember, I'm a young, trendy TikTok teen.
Yeah,
I'm 23, but I consider myself a TikTok teen.
So I would have been like 14, still too young to see My Bloody Valentine because there's full frontal in that, and
nice.
I saw that in theaters in 3D, and I was like, oh,
very nice.
I'm thinking about it.
I don't think
I've never seen the remake.
Oh, it's good.
I gotta watch it. I think I've only seen the original, and I was just kind of like lukewarm on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen like the 2004, 2005.
See the remake with Jensen Ackles.
Jensen. I did recently watch the Friday the 13th remake, so we've got part of the cast.
Friday the 13th remake kills. I love that remake.
It's honestly not bad. It beats the hell out
intro,
of the
that like
Nightmare on Elm Street
intro. So good.
Yeah. I was like surprised by that. Like I didn't expect the Friday the 13th remake to subvert my expectations.
Yeah.
Kind of did.
So fantasy casting, you have two Tourist Trap remakes or reboots happening. You've got a straight up remake, and then you have the Halloween treatment where it's 40 years later.
Oh my God.
Who are you casting as Molly and Mr. What's his face?
Okay, for the remake,
Mr. Slauson.
Mr.
Slauson and Mr. John Carroll Lynch. Like that's who immediately comes to mind. I absolutely see John Carroll Lynch nailing that role because he's already played it like 5 times. So I think he could do it reasonably.
I love that.
And Molly is, honestly, whoever's working with Blumhouse right now, just stick her in there. She'll do a good job. Or I don't know. I like there's a lot of fans of that actress from Ma. Like she's real popular with like the B movie fans right now because Ma is like the most recent horror cult classic I can think of. Like the internet really brought that movie to life after it left theaters. So like I would put her in it. Like she should be a camp queen.
Like aside from your videos, I've been seeing a lot of talk about Ma. On TikTok, and it is underrated. Like not enough people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is new Tourist Trap. It's not Mr. Slauson. It's Mrs. Slauson, played by Octavia Spencer.
Dude, if Octavia Spencer was in a Tourist Trap remake, all my money. Love her. Love that idea. We should do it. But yeah, I've made like 5 Ma videos in the last 2 days. I can't leave my house, so I'm just making Ma content. That's Ma content. No, because like the teens determine what's going to be a cult classic, and like the teens love this movie, like they're obsessed with it. They know it's they're kind of winking at it, like it's a little ironic. They know that it's not like high art, but I just think that's great. It's like a modern example of something that's going to be a cult classic because like it's just an instantly like memeable movie. It's great, love it. Love Ma, love making Ma tent. If I'm ever back on the show, we have to discuss Ma.
I agree with that.
Either make or break your movie. Like they can discover something like Tropic Thunder, and they can be like, "Well, Robert Downey Jr. did blackface."
Yeah, it's like,
and then try to cancel it. And it's like, well, have you seen the movie? Or they can discover something like Ma, which came out recently, and they're like, "Yo, this movie fucking rips. Check this movie out."
Right? Yeah, it's great.
Like,
it's great.
Tourist Trap, teens. Discover Tourist Trap.
I know, and that
was
my entire goal here. Like, I want the teens to talk about Tourist Trap. Octavia Spencer signs on for the sequel. Tate Taylor directs because why not? I don't know if David Schmoller's alive, but Tate Taylor's in charge now. He did The Help. He did Ma. Now he's doing Tourist Trap. What a guy.
Logical trajectory.
He also lives in my state. That's like the only director I can think of that's like lives in Mississippi on purpose. Not many people do that. I don't.
Thankfully, all the teens watch this show, so let's get hashtag notice tourist trap teens trending.
Hashtag notice. I promise you I'm going to make a video tonight where I'm like, be sure to type hashtag notice tourist trap teens.
We need the teens talking.
People on TikTok are so mean to me. They're going to be like, what the fuck is this?
It's on Tubi, kids. Notice tourist trap.
Oh, it's on the Shudder. Watch it. Joey King's on Shudder now. You like Joey King, kids?
Oh, you just nailed it. Molly's played by Joey King. You just nailed it.
Wait, yes. Oh my god, dude, that's gonna make the movie make money. We got to get Joey King now.
We need
Joey King as Molly. Octavia Spencer as Mrs. Slauson.
Absolutely.
And what's her face from Pretty Little Liars? The one that was in Fantasy Island.
I don't think she has a name, but she's great. She's in it.
Yeah, she's going to be
Lucy Hale?
Lucy Hale.
Yes. Lucy Hale, I feel like she's an underrated horror queen at this point. It's like
she's Becky. Boom.
Yeah, she's Becky. She's
absolutely. We're making art as we speak, like live on the internet.
Often on this show is we'll end up like pitching something just randomly, and we're like, oh, that's gonna be a headline in like 4 months. Just we're gonna call it.
Yeah.
I guarantee 4 months from now we're gonna hear Blumhouse is remaking Tourist Trap or making a direct sequel to the original with all these actors.
If we're lucky, we'll each get a mannequin named after us.
Yeah.
And all our lines.
I'd be fine with that.
Let's be mannequins and then get all our lines cut out.
Keep the forces.
One of us is gonna have to marry Tate Taylor, but
oh my god. Well, Davis, this has been a blast to talk about Tourist Trap. This has been terrific. Is there anything we didn't cover in regards to Tourist Trap that you feel we're missing out on here?
Is that even possible?
Did we get them all?
I think we got everything. I think this movie's been discussed now more than it ever possibly could be in the future. If Joe Bob has also covered this, like, there's nothing else to say. We did it. Like,
this is the most
we've written the book on Tourist Trap
discussion that's occurred in the last 10 years right here. We just had it.
Mm-hmm.
There's power in that. Well, thank you for bringing this to us, Davis. I really don't know if I would have seen it otherwise. This is definitely an underrated gem. It's a nice little sort of time capsule piece of like pre-slasher horror when they're just figuring it out, and it's got its quirks and its flaws, but I think that 100% all adds up to the charm of something like this. As Connor slides the 10-gallon hat on, this is great. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Of course.
Why don't you tell all the teens, ghouls, and goblins out there where they can find you?
Teens, ghouls, and goblins. I am literally _Kathy_Bates on TikTok because Kathy Bates is the only actress. I have a big list of onlys. I'm at Not Davis Harmon on Twitter. Maybe just don't follow me on Twitter. It's a hell site. I'm Davis Bates on YouTube. Don't have any videos yet. Don't follow me there either. So just follow me on TikTok. That's all I have to plug. And be sure to join our Kickstarter for the Tourist Trap reboot coming in 2022.
Get on board now because it's coming whether you like it or not.
Yep. Look out, Lucy Hale. You got a check coming your way.
Perfect. And of course, be sure to tune in next week. Next Thursday, we got another great show on the way. Joined by friend of the channel, Cody House, coming on Really Scared for the very first time to talk about Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. That is just ready to stream right on Prime Video right now. Also, of course, VOD everywhere. I can't wait to talk about The Lighthouse. It's going to be
my God.
I have not revisited yet, so it's going to be great to come back to that movie.
I'm going to look so disgusting for that episode.
I believe you. 100% I believe you. Of course, tomorrow night, come back for Wrestle Reel on this very channel, our very own pro wrestling show hosted by Nick Mulbach and Chris Anthony Lopez, The Greats. And Sunday, tune in for Real Talk, which is now back to its guest-oriented format, not unlike our show. I don't think we've announced yet who will be joining us on Real Talk, but looking forward to it. Really love hearing those conversations happen again on Sunday. So tune in then. Go find Davis Harmon on TikTok. He's got all the great horror movie, B-movie content you love. If you like this show, there's no reason you won't like that. And until then, and as always, where's that damn frog?